All right, we're live on Facebook. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Nice to see you guys, even digitally. I would prefer it face to face so we can click glasses of wine and have a beer or something. And
Soon. You know what, Rich?
Cotton wine.
Yes.
I'm looking for the Moderna shot.
Soon, Rich. Soon. I think it's sooner now than it ever was before.
Yeah.
If it's fair to say that, right?
It's everyone, thank you for joining. For those of you, we do this little hello so that more people that are interested can have time to log on, and also those of you that are going to be listening to this later, hello, and always a pleasure. Welcome. We are obviously here to inform and to kind of have the right important conversations to essentially inform the community that is following us as to what is going on in Armenia. We have an amazing guest, David. Thank you for bringing her on. Who we will join. We will talk with later. But for now, I guess let's dive in. Oh, pause. Always important, right? As always, thank you everybody that donates. And today we're donating to the through the Facebook platform. We are raising funds for the Armenian Wounded Heroes Fund, which has been doing phenomenal work with our soldiers that are returning home, have returned home. So today we are fundraising for that entity. So if you have a chance, if your heart, wallet, desire is there, we would really appreciate you fundraising and hitting that donate button. And obviously we only fundraise for the things that we trust. So the three of us, you can, anytime you want, you can talk to us. Hey man, that fund that you are fundraising for, tell me about it, and I'll be more than happy to. So is Richard, so is David, to explain what those funds do. But for now, we have a great yes sir.
I was just going to say also, we'll have up on the link tree, up in the comments section, I'm going to put a link to our link tree, which will have a link to everything that we talk about, or at least all the important links, including Armenian Wounded Heroes and more. Exactly. So we've got one central place for most of our links.
Exactly. Well said, Rich. It's and well said, both of you guys. The link tree is a central place for people to take action, to donate, to learn as well. So well said. Yeah, should we jump right into it, guys?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Obviously, lots of news to cover, and similar to last week, Greg, when we had our guest from Tufenkian, Rafi, who joined us midway through the show. We have a similar format tonight. Mariam Khaloyan, who is the Director of Congressional Relations for the Armenian Assembly of America, will be joining us. She is in Armenia as well, and with the time change there, so it's still early morning. She'll be joining us midway through the episode tonight. So lots to cover before then. Guys,
those of you who aren't familiar with who the Armenian Assembly is or what they do, there are two primary political advocacy action groups in this country, in America, that also operate in other spheres. But that would be the Armenian National Committee of America, ANCA, and also and tonight's guest is coming from the Armenian Assembly. So two different entities, but we try and be impartial and just promote the greater cause. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump to it. Obviously, we'll start off, David, if you'd like, with the necessary anniversary, right?
Yeah, it's 101 years to the days, guys. We're right in the middle of the time when in 1920 there was a massacre which occurred in Shushi. Greg, what can we share with everybody about this? A lot of people don't realize this and how it relates to today as well, with Azerbaijan claiming it's their city, and sadly our own current prime minister acknowledging that it's been an Azeri city, which is not true.
Absolutely.
Here is why it's not true, right, Greg? What can we share with everybody about the Shushi massacre 101 years ago, March 22 through 26, 1920?
So, it was at the beginning of the formation of the then, the Azeri Republic. You got to understand, these are all Armenian lands, right? And things were being carved out. So Shushi, by the way, outside of Tiflis and Baku, was probably the third largest city in the region. And back in the day, before Baku was formed in the I think late 1700, early 19th century. Shushi was the second largest, most important city in that region. Ganja being one of them as well. So this massacre took place in 1920. The entire Armenian quarter of that city. And Rich, that photo over there on this Wikipedia page, if you can click on the second bot, yeah, that one. That photo right there, you can see one thing. All of us that remember that sacred city that we visited, the ones that had the privilege to visit, the ones, and hopefully one day we will again. You see that church in the distance? That's Ghazan Chetsots. That's that church that we all know now as the one that's being bombarded as one of the archbishops or the priest was singing. That was a very, very eerie portion of this war, something that we were able to visualize. And the entire place, look at how gutted out it was. It was completely taken out. Armenians were massacred. Thousands of Armenians lost their lives. And that's how, in the Soviet Union, it became to be known that Shushi is the Azeri town, while Stepanakert, a newly formed city, Stepanakert is not ancient, everybody knows it, is the Armenian town. Well, why did that happen? Armenians were forced out, you know?
Exactly.
Shushi was a very much an Armenian town. It was an Armenian dominant, majority Armenian town.
Yeah.
But they were all slaughtered.
Yeah, Greg, this is a little known fact, I feel.
Well, David,
it was during the genocide. This was during the Armenian genocide.
You got to understand, the Armenian genocide is happening on what is now known as the Ottoman Empire. This is the Caucasus, right? The Caucasus is what was oh goodness, that is a crazy photo. If you look at the bottom one as well, I believe, no, that photo could be of the Kananjam that was also, and we'll talk about it later on, that the lesser church there. Anyways, yes, this was chronologically at the same time as the Armenian genocide, maybe within the same time frame, because we got to understand, we talk about the genocide 1915 to 1923, that space of time. Yes, that falls within that time frame. You guys, you got to understand that this is not a lesser known fact. For all of us Soviet Armenians, this is a very well known fact. It's just that here in the Western diaspora, we're a little bit too concentrated on the Western Armenia, right? And that's okay, you know. David, Richard, you hail from your roots hail from that area. We named our wine brand Karin. That's also Western side as well, Erzurum. Right. But there's a lot of bad things that happened to us in the Eastern side as well, which just wasn't Ottoman Empire. It was just a crumbling Soviet Russian Empire. And as Russians would retreat or lose possession, the Turks would come in and do their thing. And it was and this was one of those horrible massacres. There were more, and we can one day maybe spend time on that. There were more around that time. Wow. But Shushi is just one of those prominent ones. And I think as a diaspora, we need to start, knowing all of these things. We should add it to the Adanas and to the, Urfas and all of those. That is one singular narrative. It's a nation that wants to kill us all.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I would even argue that that this is a policy that is running concurrent with today. So we're not talking about. I mean, we may be talking about it, history from 100 years ago and celebrating, if you will, or at least acknowledging the anniversary of this. But these same policies are in effect right now. And even Absolutely. Prior to launching the show, we were talking about a lot of the things that are happening. Obviously, we have a pre-game huddle, so to speak. And when we talk about genocide, it's not necessarily just the killing of people. It is the erasing of the culture. It is trying to erase all traces that this group of people existed in the first place, and shifting the narrative to something that is not true in order to justify your behavior, or to at least whitewash it and make it seem like don't pay attention to this, go think about something else. And we're seeing that happening right now.
Richard, it is worse than that, and I agree with what you're saying. It's it's the erasure of our existence. And David, we'll get to a couple of those instances of now. It's everything that we saw in Nakhichevan. It's everything. I would, your roots are from Urfa, right? I'm willing to bet if you go to Urfa today, you see a modern looking city with like
right,
minuscule traces of anything that you can, your grandmother could barely probably even remember it if she was alive. God rest
for
her
sure.
soul, right?
I mean,
So,
and I even just recently I was listening to an audio book, and the researcher was doing a lot of excavating, and he was in what he was calling Sanli Urfa, which is my grandmother. I mean, it's Urfa. So and so I'm listening to this, and for hours I'm listening to this man pronounce this, the name of this town, and it's heartbreaking because I know what it is. I mean, he did acknowledge, some of the history just for the context, but it doesn't erase the fact that, those of us who are the descendants of the survivors have to, watch as the world doesn't even make the connection, or they ignore it entirely. And so it enables this continual behavior because no one's feet are held to the fire, so to speak,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well,
Tragic, guys.
let's keep it going. It's the continuation, and the fact that the world is just sitting idly. But we've learned one thing in this past war is I don't think we can. We will push the war. We will keep showing to the world the ugliness of what's happening. But I no longer have the the thought that someone's going to come to our rescue. There's only one nation that's kind of out of self-interest and somewhat interest in the region is doing that, and that's Russia. Like it or hate it. Currently.
Get it.
Guys,
many of we all worked together. How we met was by doing political advocacy work. And so, I mean, I want to hold out faith that that something good is going to come of this April. My 2 cents is that Biden has one chance to get right with it, and I'm not sure he will, but other people seem to think so. What were you going to say, David?
Well, no. I didn't realize you were queuing up the next item. Yeah. So apparently this last week, news broke from Ian Bremmer. He actually has a media called G0 Media that I believe he runs. It appears. Maybe we can show his tweet, Rich, the Bremmer tweet. But he is claiming that he has information from sources that the White House, the Biden White House, that's who's in the White House right now. Thank God the last guy isn't. I will say that. But Biden on the campaign trail, much like his predecessors, Trump did not, Hillary did not on the campaign trails, but predecessors have on the campaign trails promised to recognize the Armenian genocide when they're in office and failed to do so. Obama, Clinton, Bush, they all failed to do that. Biden, his chance is coming up exactly a month from yesterday, right? Ian Bremmer, who apparently I just learned is an HBU alumni. He's an HBU scholarship recipient. I did not even know that. He's part Armenian. He is claiming that the White House will formally recognize the Armenian genocide this April. So look, I think politically it makes a lot of sense. Just like in 2019, if it's gonna happen, now is the time. Just like when Congress did it back then. But Rich, like you have said, Greg, you as well. We have, it's yet to be seen. Time will tell.
Yeah.
We'll believe it when we see it.
So let me expand on that for a second. First of all, many people would have asked the question, why is it important for the United States to recognize the Armenian genocide? And I would argue that the reason is because this, up until this past administration, sorry for all you Armenians who are still Trump people, up until this last administration, the U.S. had a lot of clout in the world, and what we said held a little bit of weight. And this is as America has sort of dropped its stature, so to speak, in terms of how morally correct we are in the world, how much power we have in that. I don't know that we have the same. I don't know that America has the same gravitas that it did 20 years ago. I don't know that we could hold Turkey accountable like we could have 20 years ago. But my concern is that there's more going on than I think Armenians get so wound up in, hey, we want genocide recognition, that we lose sight of the fact that we are just acting like caffeinated kids who are excited at something as soon as our names are mentioned. And we got to get past that. I just don't see the U.S. holding Turkey accountable and pushing back against the NATO ally. I just don't see it happening. I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah.
I want it to happen, but I'm tired of like going, oh my gosh, we're going to make some progress, and then having it be completely deflated by some bullshit argument about, it just gets old. It just gets old, and I can't be on that emotional roller coaster. I don't know about anybody else, but I can't.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of people reaching out to me like, "Oh, Greg, do you think maybe it's going to happen?" And my answer is, you got the three genocide advocates running the show right now. You know what I mean? Like, we've done a lot of advocacy, and I know, David, you're still involved with a lot of the Bay Area organizing. I just don't know, given the matter of everything that's going on. Yes, I want it to happen, but we got so much on our plate.
There's so much more. Sad to say, like this is not the main issue facing Armenia right now. This is an Armenian American issue, if anything. But here's the thing, guys. I actually do. Look, I don't want to get too high or too excited about it. I'm not doing that. I'm trying to temper my expectations. But I do think there is reason to believe that this will happen. Apparently, Biden, his administration, has not returned calls to Erdogan. Still, apparently. And again, remember, this is coming off of 2019 in October and in December, both houses of Congress recognizing the genocide. The president at the time is in bed with Erdogan. He still is. Good for him. Hope he's happy in bed with Erdogan. And I'm talking about Trump. Yes, I am. I'm talking about that bastard, Donald Trump. I'm saying it. Sorry. It's not just it's not just politics. I agree with a lot of Republican sentiment. It's not about that. I'm going to put that out there. Sorry, guys. I just kind of went on a little tangent. But he has really damaged our position, Rich, like you touched on. And he has a lot to do with the situation Armenia and Artsakh are in right now, believe it or not, because the U.S. was silent during the war. So, look, this is a chance for the U.S. to try to get on the right side of things, Rich and Greg. We have yet to see if it's going to happen. We can't put our hopes too high.
Like I said, cautiously optimistic, not holding my breath. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I think my only statement on it, and I could have many, and my primary statement would be, I'll see it when I believe it.
Yeah, what I also don't want to see is, I don't want to see, like I said, guys, this is important. And again, Sasnal Tzareh and everybody that's like anti-Russia. Right now, the only thing that's, holding protection against like the gun of the Turk, not even Azeris, the Turk, is this presence of Russians. Exactly. So if this all of a sudden, like this recognition and America's entry into that area comes kind of as a way to just like, again, push out Russia, I don't know how I feel about that, because I just, I don't
that would be disastrous.
Yeah, I don't feel that.
That can't happen. Yeah, that can't.
Yeah,
happen.
on that point, Greg, given the amount of political turmoil that is in Armenia right now, given the amount of up and down that is happening there, you're right. The only thing that is really holding the line are the Russian peacekeepers, and Russia and Putin specifically for getting involved. And whether that was self-serving or not, I don't care, because you know what? He has boots on the ground. Our guys didn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. So as far as I'm concerned, if America moving towards, towards genocide recognition will with power behind it. In other words, with enforcement, we could do a whole episode just on that.
Yeah.
But we won't, or at least we can't right now. But without some teeth in this, and this just irritates Russia, I gotta say, I don't.
Yeah, I don't see it irritating Russia. I don't see it irritating Russia, guys. But yeah, let's move. We'll come back. Obviously, this is gonna keep coming up all the way up into April 24, most likely. So, we have to just keep our eyes on it. So. Why don't we touch on the political turmoil that continues in Armenia, before our guest joins us soon here.
There is obviously, there's a lot that's going on. Guys, I'll be honest with you, this is not where I thought we would be. I am very, very, I'm very, very worried. There's obviously a lot of, opposition, and the opposition is kind of, um, the push is not as monumental as I would hope it would be. There's something that's going to be slated for the 28th, and I wholeheartedly believe that that needs to happen. For now, the three factions that are essentially the biggest parties in the parliament currently are having talks, and Gagi Tsarukyan, the Bargawaj Hayastan guy, the prosperous Armenia guy, the oligarch that is okay with Pashinyan. That's actually another thing that you always gotta wonder when I'm criticizing Pashinyan, right? Everyone's like, well, notice Pashinyan definitely has oligarchs that he selected to keep, okay? And there's a lot of the Lefik Samos and others, and Gagi Tsarukyan, who he had a lot of problems with, but now like again, and that there seems to be some kind of a conversation. I don't know about coalition. This Marukian guy, to be honest with you, he is kind of an opposition to Pashinyan, but a different shade of Pashinyan. Okay, so it is just appalling where Armenian politics and parliamentary politics currently is. But yeah, we are headed for snap elections. But it looks like Pashinyan yet again, on the June 20th, it looks like yet again Pashinyan is most likely going to try to like finagle something which is going to resemble some kind of a coalition. Man, this is really, really, really scary stuff, because the loss of Sunik is still on the map. David, Rich, we had Nanor Balabanyan and her friend Lori on the two of them were joining us. Where Lori is actually right now in Sunik, and she's showing through her Insta stories what's going on. Like that you're driving on a highway and there's an Azeri flag right in your face. It says "Welcome to Azerbaijan," even though it's a canyon. Okay, like literally, anything to make sure. And there's not a single pushback from anything from Yerevan. And the fact that the rest of the country is not waking up to that really, really scares me. And there was something that really was important to point out, and I know we're running out of time, is before there was a little bit of this sentiment, the Hayastansis versus the Artsaksis. Well, now Artsakh got dealt with, and now there's the Yerevansis versus the Suniksis, okay? And that notion I really detest about our people. Okay, it's kind of as long as the cafes are open and I got my wine pouring in Yerevan on Saryan Street, it's okay. Are we gonna lose Sunik? I don't know. I've personally never been to Sunik. Have you, David? Have you, Richard?
Yes.
Whatever. You know what I mean?
We both have, Greg. Yeah.
Yeah, we both have.
But I understand your point. It's that laissez-faire attitude of, well, if it doesn't directly impact me right now, then I don't care. As long as I got my Louis Vuitton bag and I got my my G-Wagon or whatever, then who cares?
Yeah.
And I don't mean to throw people into the bus. It's about a value thing. What do you value? Do you value getting what you can out of this life right now? Or do you value sacrificing for the greater good for the long haul? And if we don't value that entire category of secondary, then what are we doing on any of this for? Why even call ourselves Armenian? And I think that's the point, going back to another facet of genocide, which is the erasure of the people. And the problem is that we're allowing it to happen to ourselves.
Yeah, we are, dude. Right now we are in a crossroads of us being the biggest problem. You have to understand that when people are reading and analyzing what's happening in Azerbaijan, Aliyev can't stand the fact that any of the old guard ever comes back to power in Armenia. They are like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's when you'll see that's when you see the villain immediately flips like that, as me and you have seen, and becomes the victim. All Armenians, here they come, and right now they're making fun of our POWs. They are, which is a great way to jump to that section, and they are literally making fun of our Armenian nation with all sorts of egregious statements. How most of Armenia is West Azerbaijan or something like that. Anyways,
it's awful. Yeah, but it's definitely to their advantage that Pashinyan stays in power, like you said, Greg. It's definitely to their advantage. So look, like Greg, you touched on it. Look, the POWs, continues to be a top priority issue right now. We're going to talk about resolution in the U.S. House about it when Mariam joins us in a little bit here. But we are seeing more coverage about it, and Human Rights Watch. Let's see, who was the head? One of the heads of Human Rights Watch was in. Let's see, she was in the area.
Yeah, she was in, no, she was in, I believe she was in Yerevan speaking to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she brought this up, and she called for more action from Europe. So it's Human Rights Watch Deputy Director for Europe and Central Asia, Rachel Dember. She told Armen Press, one of the Armenian press sources, in an interview, she told them that Azerbaijan's international partners should press the government of Aliyev to hold perpetrators of torture and degrading treatment against Armenians accountable, like you mentioned, Greg. But also, guys, these prisoners of war are still in captivity. They need to be returned. They are being used as pawns to try to get more of a capitulation of Armenia. And who knows, that could even include Sunik, right, Greg? So
Dude,
look,
I don't want to think about it. But let's see.
Human Rights Watch also published recently about how POWs are being abused in custody. So we're seeing this. We didn't see it during the war. We're seeing it now. It took, what, 4 months plus for these POWs to be in captivity for Human Rights Watch to write about it. But at least it's there. We have to keep driving this and sharing this and make sure that the awareness is there. We have to.
Absolutely.
We have to.
And then last but not least, obviously, right, because we want to leave time for Mariam's participation here, it's this horrendous news item of today.
Yeah.
Early on, right after the Armenian, capitulation, because if you ever want to watch out for a snitch, it's anyone that says we lost the war. So anytime that rhetoric is being given to you by a lead person in leadership, that's how you can definitely see that there's some Davachanu tune. That's a good word for you to remember. Azerbaijan destroys another Armenian church, another being that they've done it to 100 of our churches before. Or Aliyev likes to call them Albanian, and we can do an entire masterclass on what the heck Albanian really is when there's a country about 2,000 miles that away that's called Albania too. But this was a church in the Hadrut region. We remember seeing those photos of a guy or a jihadist actually standing and toppling over the cross on that church. And recently, BBC of all news outlets, which I'm always weary about, but I'll take it.
Azeri Oil funded.
Yeah, right? Azeri Oil, BP, what's her name, Thatcher, and all that BS. They noticed that, hey, what happened to this church? Because you can clearly see, and how lazy of them. Chop down the trees, man. Those trees were the ones that pointed to this complete erasure of this church. So this is a monstrous nation. It is a vile nation. I have no respect. And people say, well, how do you you can't paint with a broad strokes. I guarantee you, there's not a single person in Azerbaijan crying over this or going, oh my God, how are we allowing this to happen? So
they're celebrating.
To give you an idea,
I don't think anybody there has even uttered the words cultural appropriation.
Whatever, yeah. Like, you want to know cultural appropriation? The entire country of Georgia has been built on it. So, but that's for another point. What I want to say is this. Richard and David, you were mentioning how the genocide and the erasure of the Armenian existence has been kind of the something that is very part of the Azeri existence. My addition to that statement is, and this is something that I formulated in a few years back, as a matter of fact, Azeri's emergence, Azeri's roadmap to their claim to existence has been hinged upon the erasure of Armenians. Okay? That is the only way that they can kind of exert legitimacy to their land, is if they cleanse it of Armenians, because they understand that they are the new arrivals to the area. They are the guests. They are the imposters. They are the colonizers. End of story.
Yeah.
So,
directly related to this, well, I believe we're still waiting for Mariam to join us. The United States Commission, this is not, I don't know if this is even going to mean anything, right? But it's directly related to what you just were talking about, Greg, and the erasure of the churches. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom recommended that the State Department place Azerbaijan on its special watch list for its ongoing and systematic religious freedom violations. So look, I think it's a positive thing that these commissions and Human Rights Watch and all these are writing about it and highlighting it and making it known that this is happening. The problem is none of those things are going to stop it. And how do we stop it? How does it stop?
We buy influence. Sorry, that's the only way we can do it now.
Yeah,
we buy influence.
I say it's the guns. We need to have the guns, and we need to have the political will, and we need to have the money.
Yeah.
So on that note, before we get there, we have a whole other few things that we could talk about, but let's get to our guest. What do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
We'll let her in.
It's connecting.
Hey,
Mariam.
Hey, Mariam.
How are you?
Good morning. Bye, Luis.
Very good. Yeah. How nice to finally meet you. I think we're connected on Facebook. Thank
Mariam,
you for joining
Greg,
us.
Mariam, Rich, Greg, Mariam.
All right,
guys,
David, do the formal.
Sure.
Intro. Yeah.
Sure. Our viewers, please welcome Mariam Khaloyan, Director of Congressional Relations with the Armenian Assembly of America. She's doing a phenomenal job and just is coming off organizing a really, really awesome and well put together our virtual advocacy conference, which we wanted to talk to you about. But before we get into that, we know that you're in Armenia. Thank you for joining us early morning over there and taking the time to join us while you're there. What is it like? I know you've been there, just a couple of days. What's it like being back? You were there in November. What can you tell us about what it's like on the ground right now? Yeah.
David and Greg and Richard, thank you so much for having me on your show today. It's such a pleasure to speak with all of you. David, you are so great with all that you do, all the advocacy work. I'm so thankful that you were able to participate in our advocacy conference, virtual advocacy conference, as you've done in the past. You've not only participated, but you've also been part of the actual conference and role played, and we can talk about that too. I've been in Armenia for a few days now, just getting my jet lag sort of settled. I think this call will definitely be a way for me to be getting up earlier. So I thank you for that.
Excellent.
Seems fine for now. I know that there were a bunch of demonstrations going on for some time. It seems that martial law has been lifted and it's peaceful around the city. Weather's a bit cold, hoping for some more sunshine next week. So we'll see as things settle. I want to go to Artsakh at some point, just trying to figure out the best timing before I leave. So planning on spending Easter here with my family and taking work from home in the literal sense and working from actual home. So happy to be here. Yeah.
So that's so good to hear. So now we know another bit that you are from Armenia. You have family there, relatives.
Yes.
Are you and I know that this is more like a vacation as well, but are you there and doing any official work? Is through assembly, anything that you might pencil in that you might be interested in sharing with us possibly?
Yes, of course. So I don't have any official meetings. I wasn't intending on making this a rigorous trip. This is not an official follow-up from my fact-finding mission from November. I wanted to spend Easter here, and again, taking advantage of the fact that we are working from home and getting my hours adjusted with working in the evening to catch up with DC because it is busy. It's April. Armenian genocide issues are coming up. So we have a lot of work to do. And so April is a pretty busy month for, I think, all Armenians in general, especially for organizations working for the cause.
For sure. For sure. Well, the three of us actually met doing advocacy work in Northern California. So we have about a decade's worth of history, more than a decade's worth of history together in doing this kind of work. And so, for whatever it's worth, I just want to say thank you for all your efforts and doing it not only in DC but also abroad.
Yeah.
Mariam, what you mentioned genocide and April's coming. There was the big news from Ian Bremmer that he broke about apparently he has sources that the White House is going to actually recognize the Armenian genocide this year. What reason do we have to believe that actually could have some validity to it? What do you
He
think?
seemed, I thank you for bringing that up. He seems that he has some internal sources that he's been speaking to, and he confirmed with us, and also put out a video through, I think, his media site.
Yeah,
Kind of a sort of a snippet leading up to what essentially it seems that is likely to happen. Again, nothing official until the White House says it. So come April 24th, we will be anxiously waiting for that official statement from the White House, as they do commemorate the Armenian genocide every year. However, calling it the phonetic name of Metzieven is not an official recognition of what is a genocide. So I'm hoping that the United States will officially, not only Congress affirming the Armenian genocide, but the United States, since President Reagan has not called the Armenian genocide a genocide in that context. And the last person to do so as a sitting president was President Reagan in 1981.
Yeah.
So, and I want to make a point to say that as well, because I've seen headlines that, President Biden will be the first to call it a genocide. It is not the case. President Reagan set an example for upcoming administrations, and they did not follow suit.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that Reagan did so not necessarily in passing, but it was grouped in a larger context, and he put no policy behind it. So while I can respect it, I think the main thing is we need policy that will back up. Just saying the words is super important, but the follow through is even more important, right?
Absolutely, yes. He did say it in the context of the Holocaust.
Right.
So I do know that.
His speechwriter was Armenian. So that people didn't realize that too. Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame that we have to have backstage passes in order to get something like that out there, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
very true.
Prides itself on being like the bastion of even Reagan himself called us the city on the hill. So if that were the case, we'd have more policy. But
and I hope that this comes in light of this new administration's promise to pay attention and be more active in human rights and be a diplomat abroad and whatnot. So I hope it's part of a bigger plan for them to set these words into action and turn it into policy items rather than just a commemoration, because as we know, Congress, of course, did recognize the Armenian genocide, and if this administration does so, what is it going to do for the Armenian people around the world, the descendants of the Armenian genocide? Of course, ultimately, it would be Turkey that we have to hold accountable for the atrocities that they've committed. And this is just part of a bigger plan, and we just have to see ahead and use it to our advantage.
Exactly.
At least to be able to say that the country we live in, the place we call home, is on the right side of history, is not on the side of denial because of puppets here and there. And I want to also bring up another important issue that this is part of our legislative priorities for our organization, is enforcing Section 907. And perhaps all of you have heard about Section 907, which was a law enacted in 1981 for the atrocities that Azeris were committing against the Armenians. And this is in the Freedom Support Act, where aid to Azerbaijan is completely stopped from the United States. And there's been a waiver signed since early 2000s, and it seems that there hasn't been parity between the aid that's been given to Armenia and Azerbaijan, because $120 million was given in a private DoD fund. And we all know where those funds ended up.
Yeah, I was.
Events unfolded last fall, to
Yeah,
say the least.
there was, and actually that's about a good segue into America's policy and their claim to what is their role in the region now. There was not I don't remember who said it, but someone mentioned that the it seemed to be through USAID they were preparing Armenia for peace, while through the DoD they were preparing Azerbaijan for war, and that is actually unfortunately where I don't know, maybe the previous administration or America in general kind of miscalculated what it needs to, what it prioritized, or maybe it calculated. You know, we as Armenian Americans, we don't know where America's eye is in terms of the relation of what Armenia is in their overall geopolitical strategy. I'm curious to see what you think America's current stance in the region is. And where does it maybe want to see itself next? Because it was not present at all during the war, or
I wonder if that was by design.
Yeah, it's a lot of heavy questions. Yeah.
I concur with everything you said in terms of the past administration not being active. It was a perfect storm, to say the least, for this awful event to unfold last fall, with COVID, with the economy, with the elections. It all happened, and to say it was pre-planned is not too far from the truth. I can't imagine, with all the military exercises that was happening, the intense military exercises, and we were following very closely because this started in unfolding in July, and we were keeping a close watch in the region to see if and what unfolds. And come September 27th, and it was just unusual aerial activity, and these are just some things that we monitor. And a few hours later,
Yeah, and then the
war started. And going back to how I see U.S. policy, again, the past administration was not active in this role. They did not lead with diplomacy, and it seems that this administration, at least from my understanding and how they've been presenting themselves, particularly from the State Department, who is our counterpart that we work with, they are open to conversation, and they have been in the past as well, but it seems that they've sort of changed their theme towards human rights, towards diplomacy, going back to different treaties that they removed themselves from, that are now part of. Our organization is nonpartisan, so we work with all sides of the aisle and do not take sides. If someone is supportive of Armenian issues, we are supportive of them, considering they have to be elected into office, correct? So it's good to see that it's an improvement from the past. It seems like we're on the right track to make some policy changes for the betterment of Armenia, for the strengthening of U.S.-Armenia relations, and I'm hopeful for that. Again, I hope that this recognition, if it happens, is not a way to, is not an only solution to point at Turkey and say that you did this for last year. I hope that they enforce Section 907, which is a tangible object in terms of not sending aid to Azerbaijan, sanctioning, of course, cannot sanction heads of state, but sanctioning family members, sanctioning those who are played a big role in what happened. Because if we don't keep them accountable as U.S. citizens, then no one else will around the world. And if we don't talk about it, no one else will. So we have to keep the pressure on, definitely have to keep the pressure on this.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I have
We cannot get comfortable. Just
Not at
because
all.
something happens, it doesn't mean it's the end all be all. And sometimes, as just human nature, you know, when you get a beam of positivity, you feel like, okay, I can sort of take my hands off the wheel for a bit. But you cannot. You have to always full throttle for this type of issue, because
Yeah.
there will be someone who will always be in a member's ear to an elected official talking about their issues. And, you know, my boss, Brian Arduni, our executive director, always says it. If we don't talk about it, then who will?
Well, absolutely, and very well said. I wanted to kind of pivot a little bit to the issues domestic meaning where you are in Armenia. What is your take on the current like political situation? How personally worried are you? Anybody that watches us can understand that I most certainly have my opinions, right? But my opinion only lies in my concern for what is going on. And what I mean by that is, there are a lot of things that were said that we mentioned, certain things may seem by design, right? I'll explain what I mean by that. Currently, all eyes are on Sunik, right? What's your opinion in terms of what is developing there? I have friends that actually are from Rapan and from Merli area are saying like, we don't know what's going to happen to us. And that to me is ludicrous, to have to understand that that is an actual thing that people are talking about, because most certainly, the administration in Yerevan is not talking about that. And that is where my concern is. There's all sorts of ideas that are floating, but I just wanted to see your take on what do you think of the political situation in Armenia, and especially what the conversations around Sunik is. Yeah.
So the trilateral statement on November 9th was a gut-wrenching and sort of to all Armenians around the world. I don't think there's a single person who read that, who knew the repercussions of that and said, okay, this is fine. And after that, the people of Armenia who were not satisfied with what happened did demonstrations, and we saw them happen in the streets. We saw conversations erupt. And as an outsider looking in, as someone who observed the Velvet Revolution in 2018, I hope that the people of Armenia do what's best for them, and these upcoming snap elections that are going to happen will be the ultimate test for the people here. And I hope for any change, if that were to be the case, for it to be fair, transparent, as the past elections have been, and it will be solely for the righteousness of the Armenian people and for what they want, because ultimately we live in the United States, and it's hard for us who don't live in the day in and day out of Armenia to have this much of a not this much of a voice, but to be I always see myself as someone from an outside looking in whenever things like this happen, and respecting the decisions of the Armenian people. And we'll see that in the upcoming elections, which I'm happy that the prime minister has announced. And in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
you know, hearing that Merdi and Raphan and all these places, I mean, my dad is Barskahai, and we used to travel by car when I was younger to Tehran. And all these places are like second home to me, because we have so many relatives who live there and who we used to stay with when we were driving. And I've been in contact with them, and they are not happy with the situation, and they are very concerned. So Greg, when you tell me about your friends who are concerned about Sunik, I am very concerned as well. And I hope that perhaps the appropriation cycle that's coming around, where our organization submits a testimony, as well as the Armenian caucus leaders who send a letter around for the approps to get funding and assistance for Armenia, we will include a portion in there for aid for security for Armenia, not only for the $100 million in humanitarian assistance, but also for the security for the borders, and hoping that if these funds are tapped in and they are sent to Armenia, perhaps it will be some sort of safe haven for the people of Sunik, unless things get worse than they are now. Like
No,
hopefully.
that is the main concern is who's watching the escalation of. It seems to me that it's like we're kind of we're doing the hopes and prayers for Sunik, where in reality, this is a piece of Armenia, internationally recognized, and it's being talked about as if it's it's a piece of a pie that's about to get sliced off. That's beyond concerning because it's
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think what I'm hearing and what we've been talking about for quite some time now, and I'm just going to cut right to it. It seems like there's just this colossal amount of gaslighting coming out of the administration on the ground in Yerevan, and we are all made to second guess the events that are happening, the threats that seem very legitimate and very real, and now we're having to consider the idea of relinquishing Sunik, and there's a lot more going on than what is being shown to us, but it's not like we can't see it. So I guess the question is what is it, what do you, I mean, obviously you just got there, so I can't, but what is your sense about the disconnect between what's being said and what's being shown?
So again, I'm not in Sunik, so I haven't seen it firsthand. I do want to go in and speak to some of the local folks there, especially see my family who lives there, and get a sense of what is going on and how they see things. Just from my personal, not satisfaction, but at least I can get it from someone firsthand who lives there.
Right.
So hoping to do that and see what happens. But yes, absolutely. With the day and age that we live in, with social media, with Telegram, all the news that's coming in from Sunik about what is going on and the villages, and trying to figure out what is not. I can't even imagine that what is not what, to even have to consider that. So I just hope it gets under control, and it's a bit out of my purview in terms of figuring out the situation, but I am closely monitoring it, and I hope it comes to a conclusion, because from all that I've seen, all the videos on social media, from the news that I'm reading, it's not good.
Right. So I think we had some other questions, but there have been a couple questions that have come from some of our viewers, and I wanted to make sure while they're still with us to ask them to you, if that's okay with you. One is, what is the situation with COVID that you've seen, and how are people getting back, and are people getting vaccinated in Armenia?
So for COVID?
Yeah.
So I know that RP Vartanian, who's our regional director here, closely monitors the COVID numbers, and she actually gives daily updates on the COVID numbers from Artsakh as well as Armenia. And I am not too familiar with the COVID vaccinations that are occurring for Armenians here. I know that it's a quick process because I've done it.
Right.
Before I had to leave. It's very quick. It's actually quicker than it was in the States. I got my results back, the PCR test, which is the not the rapid test, which is what you need to travel, within a few hours of going to the clinic. And they actually have a home service as well, where they come to your house and they test you. So it's very accessible, which is great. Yeah, so I can at least attest to that. I've personally done it.
We do know that there is a new wave, a third wave of COVID that is beginning to hit. So, we hope that you are going to stay safe, and we're glad that you got, taken care of. The next question would be, Will you be filming in Artsakh when you go there? And if so, will you be sharing this on the show for us to see in the updates?
Or maybe on your Instagram, something like that.
Yes. Yes. So I will definitely be documenting on my personal social media pages, mostly on Instagram, through stories or any beautiful views of Armenia, which is at every step. Whenever I walk around Yerevan, if I could post everything that my eye catches, I probably would, but that would annoy some people. So I try to keep it at a minimum. But if I do go to Artsakh, and if that's possible, just given the weather and my schedule and actually going there, it seems I actually spoke to the foreign minister, David Babayan, and he said that diasporans are going back and forth. There's traffic back and forth between Armenia and Artsakh, encouraging people to go. So it just depends. But I will be posting on my social media page, and I have been so far. My friend and I planted seeds yesterday for the Easter grass, so documented that so far. But
That's cool. I've been trying to get, my local church or my constituency back here in Northern California to get back to the egg cracking, but I'm only one guy.
Yeah.
Denhire, if you're watching, eggs.
So yeah, Mariam, that would be great. We hope you're able to go to Artsakh again, and we hope that you enjoy your time there for Easter. It's really wonderful you're there. A couple things about the COVID. There was a report on Osprey about the vaccines. 600 vaccinations apparently were administered recently. I don't know about total vaccinations, but just to answer that question that was posed, there was a report out there about that.
cool.
Mariam, let's shift back to the Virtual Advocacy Conference, which completed really essentially just last week, right? Because there were still meetings that were happening. What can you tell everybody about what the conference was about? There were a number of panels that were held, conversations and speakers, and then there were meetings. What can we tell everybody about what the conference was about and the meetings and so on? Yeah.
So pre-COVID era, we used to have these virtual advocacy conferences all in person. It was a fun, and David, you've been to DC and you've participated before. It was a sort of a 3-day event where we would invite Armenian Americans and those who want to advocate for strengthening of US-Armenian relations to come to DC to participate in panel discussions. And then the second day, essentially you would be up on the hill with all your, your folders, with all your goodies, and go to member offices and meet with your respective elected official and talk about issues that matter to us, to our community. And given the pandemic, we had to go all virtual, as did most of everyone. And I can wholeheartedly say that I am now a Zoom expert. And there are so many things about Zoom that some of us just don't know. If you're not in and out of it, apparently you can't have overlapping meetings. You have to have schedule privilege to schedule for other hosts. So learning this early on definitely made it easier to have a smoother virtual advocacy conference. And essentially what we did in person, we moved it all online, minus the beautiful gala honoring, we've honored several distinguished people who have made a difference in our community in person, and having that gala experience is very uplifting. So I was sad to know that as we moved everything to a virtual world, we would be missing out on that. But as I like to see the life in general as my cup half full, I think we were able to reach so many more people by doing this advocacy conference online. And essentially it was a full 2 days of panel discussions on Artsakh post-war, on preserving the culture and heritage of Armenia, on congressional priorities and US policy, as well as the Halotrust demining from Amasya Zargarian, who was on the ground giving us a report. And this essentially built up the rapport for those who were going to participate in Hill meetings to be well prepared on the issues to talk with their members of Congress. And the following few days, actually not even just the following few days. There are meetings this week as well.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Trickled over, yeah.
Oh.
Again, these schedules are so fluid with congressional offices. You know, you can have something set in stone and suddenly it'll change 4 times. And I'm sure, David, you got so many notifications from me with all
Great.
the
That's great.
changes. But it seems that everything went well for a first time around. It was very successful. I was happy to spearhead it with our organization, with our staff, who was so helpful one after another. It was, you know, cranking out our press releases and everything that we did to make it as successful as possible. And essentially, not only from an organizational standpoint, but really uniting the community together. And I heard this from our California State Chair, Valina Agbabian, who has been around with the organization for so long, who is so active on our issues. You know, she said that this conference was different than others because after the war, you felt like you didn't do enough. And this was something that you physically did, that, you know, you got up, you got your, you know, your Zoom links and you connected with your member of Congress and you talked about what's important to you to someone who can actually make a difference.
Right.
And that's how we have to look at ourselves because, you know, this is my bread and butter. This is my work. I do this. I love my work. I'm very passionate about it. And if I could tap this passion towards to every Armenian American in the United States, for them to also be a staunch advocate and to know that tapping into their elected official and making sure that they know that you are watching their step to hold them accountable, that will then create a ripple effect into US policy. I'm not kidding. It's us who do it. We can't wait for a member to have some revelation. You know, of course, we have our champions. We have Congresswoman Jackie Spear from the Bay Area. We've got Congresswoman Anna Eshoo. They're half Armenian. We've got the Congressman Pallone, our co-chairs, the Armenian caucus. There are over 120 people on the Armenian caucus. It's huge. While, you know, our adversaries are declining close to nothing. I don't even know. I think they're counting numbers on the Azeri caucus. So all of that, all of us united together, working on this issue, keeping the pressure up, not just, and you know, we put out these action alerts and we ask the community to take action, call your member of Congress, send the letter. I always encourage to call. Calling makes a world difference. You have to make that call. You know, everyone can send a letter, but you know, when you get a call, it's important. And I always make note to say that the work that we're doing as Armenian Americans in the States is very important for our US policy, all of us together.
So I've got a couple questions about that.
Yeah.
You know, and this may be a broad, you know, there's a lot to say because there's a lot to unpack. So, you know, I know that the three of us have put in more than a decade of this kind of advocacy work. And I know that I literally changed my life and moved back to the capital of California specifically to work on these issues. And we've often talked about how it is us who move the needle and that we have to influence our, you know, our representatives. And while I think it's fantastic that there's 120 people on the you know, on the Armenian side of the caucus and the numbers on the Azeri Turkish side are dwindling, I would also argue that they have vastly more money and resources. And more times than not, that overshadows our organization and our execution. So the first question I would have is, what is the message that we're trying to get across? Because that's going to be really, really important. And then the second thing I would ask is, and this is sort of back to the war question, what good is political advocacy if we're losing the country that we're talking about anyway? And I don't want to throw water on the candle here, but I think there are some very legitimate concerns that many of us have about the long-term viability of Armenia as a nation with physical boundaries, and how. So I guess the question is, you know, how do we best support the efforts of the Armenian Assembly here in America, and what do we think we're going to get accomplished and what is the messaging that we should be taking away and pushing out to people? Because we're in a tight spot in more ways than one.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Richard. Thank you for that. And you're right on so many points for mentioning that. And it is disheartening to know that, you know, you've put in so much time, so much effort for lands to be handed over, essentially. And that was a gut-wrenching feeling, as I said before, that no one was expecting, given all the hope that was given. In terms of what we can accomplish, not only as an organ, I don't think of the Assembly as an organization, because essentially we are the community. We are Armenian Americans. And if we don't do anything, then we don't do anything. And if we put in the work, if we keep pressure on our members of Congress, if we participate more in the democracy, if we and put it in a sort of jargon put your money where your mouth is, in that sort of sense.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say it. You have to participate in these things. And the best example to give is the Jewish American community in the United States. They have done an incredible job of making sure that everyone knows what their issues are, and they have put in so much time investing in their community. And you've got 20,000 people that show up in DC pre-COVID for APAC, and members of Congress, they don't even go on the Hill. Members come to their hotel and they ask them, what can we do for you? And this is how we have to shape our community. And the way the Assembly works is we educate. And myself, who has all this information, I want to be able to be a voice for others. You know, pre-COVID, we used to go to districts and have briefings at churches and talk about the issues and educate and raise awareness. And again, with the bigger outreach that we can do with this online world that we live in now, I'm hopeful for the awareness portion to be what will move the community. Because prior to the war last fall, from my sense, it seemed like the community was very focused on the Armenian genocide. Come April 24th, it was the big event that circulated every year. That was the main ask for the United States to recognize the Armenian genocide. And I see that the security for Armenia and Artsakh is number one on our list. And that's how it has to be. And when we're talking to our members of Congress, that's the first thing that we have to ask for. Because Congress has recognized the Armenian genocide, we have to acknowledge that and move past it to a point where there are things day in and day out. Greg, you mentioned Sunik. Richard, you were mentioning about policy, that we are able to influence. And if we just keep the pressure on them, it will happen. I know it will, because I've seen direct results and I know that it works. It's just making sure that we're able to educate enough people to know about the issues. Like having these conferences, of course, they're a lot of work, and perhaps having one in the fall, doing quarterly updates to the community. And David, you guys also on Arach Media talk about so many issues, and your outreach is amazing with all that you do. So my hat off to you guys, putting on the show and talking about these issues, and definitely putting pressure on not only the community to stay focused, because that's essentially what this is about. Even me talking with you guys today, it's to say that these are important issues. We have to stay on top of it. We can't just be laid back. We can't wait for April 24th to roll around. We have to know what our issues are every day. And I think social media, having that ability of updating us with what is going on in Armenia, what is going on in Artsakh, day in and day out, Telegram sending updates constantly. You know, we don't have to rely on one or two news sites for us to get the news. We can have a more of a broad perspective on what is going on by tapping into one source, two source, three source. If you're an educated consumer of the news, you know that you just can't listen to one news source. At least I don't. And those who are tapped into this world know that you just can't trust one source. That's why you have to have that broad perspective. Doing your research, making sure you know what you're reading.
Yeah, thank you,
Anyone
Mona.
can be educated, but if you're just focused on, you know, one issue, it creates sort of a roadblock for one's brain. So
Yeah, and people can't wait for another war to get active. You're right. We have to keep the pressure, like you've been saying, on him. Real quick, before we wrap, we're already going long, and we want to let you get to your day. Real quick, could you highlight a couple key successes from the conference, whether it's more people signing on to resolutions or people joining the caucus? What can you share real quick, high level, and then we'll show everybody how to take action, and then we'll wrap for the night. Yeah.
definitely, a few people definitely joined the Armenian caucus. It seems that it's up to bureaucracy at this point to get into the different offices and for them to update the roll call so I can see the final result of how many people joined the Armenian caucus. But I'm so happy that this outreach was not only a reinforcement of to members that the Armenian community is well and alive and we're here. It showed the members who had the meetings with their constituents the importance of these issues. So it wasn't just myself and, you know, Brian and Miran and David. Of course, you always participate in our action alerts. I'm sure your member knows who you are, and since you've sent so many letters, but it was a way for new advocates to come in, and it was a way for freshmen members of Congress to be connected to the Armenian community. So many of the offices that we were able to set meetings with had never heard about our issues before. And the beauty of the diaspora of Armenian Americans, and Richard, to counter Turkey's money and the lobbying that they're doing, is our voice, because we don't need governments to pay for our lobbying in DC. We have Armenian American diasporans who do it day in, day out. 4 of us, 8 of us, amplified, exponential numbers in California, in Michigan, in every single state. There is a pocket of Armenians who are voicing their concerns, and each and every one of those people are lobbyists.
No, I agree. I think my primary, I guess, question, if not, you know, when we talk about holding our representatives accountable if they ignore us, I think we need a little bit clear idea of what that means, because, you know, does that mean that, you know, Armenians are going to vote them out of office? Does that mean that Armenians are going to not support their businesses? Does that, you know, it could be a lot of different things. So I think what I'm asking, and I think that some of our viewers have been asking, is what can the average American do to support the Armenian Assembly, and what would be the counter to, if you're going to ignore us, we're going to do this, right? So those are the two things. What's the primary message? Like, so 3 things. What's the primary message that we should be talking to our representatives about? Number 2, what would be, you know, how do we hold them accountable, right? And you know, well, anyway, I think you have explained some of that already, so that's good.
Yeah, no. So a very easy resource of how to stay in contact with your member, to stay active. It's very easy. It's not, you know, it's not rocket science. If you go to our website, there's a big old button that says take action, and there are several items that need attention. And if you haven't done so, for those who are watching, I would very much recommend to go in and take a few minutes out of your day to send those letters to your members of Congress. All of those action items are deliverables, are tangibles, and I would very much recommend for folks to take action. And that's there. Thank you for pulling that up. And you are able to contact your member of Congress and get support. This, yeah.
On a
So
variety of different issues too.
on a variety of different issues, correct. And in
Right.
terms of, what to do if they don't, if you have a loud enough voice in their office, some members actually know their constituents by name. That's how much they've called in to their office. And I'll get calls from offices and say, oh, is there, I have calls from constituents who are concerned. What can we do? So the assembly sort of plays as not only the middleman between the constituents and the members of Congress, but also as a resource on what is happening, to raise awareness, to educate. So we reinforce that message. And going back to David asked about the advocacy conference, having all those people meet with their member of Congress gives me a way to go back and reinforce that message to get a deliverable. It holds a heavier weight when my question comes up to, hey, do you know, are you signing on to this, following up on this, in that sense. So it's very effective. Those meetings with constituents are highly effective. And if we I plan on doing something like this again in the fall. And it's the beginning of the new congressional term, a 2-year term. So if we do this once, twice, at least 4 times before this term is over, I think we'll see some good results. There's the current resolution that's pending for the release of the POWs. Hoping that will pass. It currently has 30 co-sponsors. Those are original co-sponsors. I just don't think that the website has updated the new co-sponsors since the advocacy conference. So just waiting for logistics to kick in, so I can see what's updated and what's not. But I'm in contact with offices. They've reached out to me from the meetings and thanked me for putting it on, and thanked constituents. So it's all for a bigger picture that I see, and I think those who participated in the conference also saw. And David, if you have any additional thoughts about the conference as someone who is participating.
Yeah. No, it was very well organized. I thought it was very efficient and effective to have the Zoom meetings. Up on the Hill, it's great to be on the Hill and to be there and be a part of it, but you're having to literally scramble from building to building, and it takes 15 minutes plus sometimes. We're able to go back to back to back to back to back. Obviously, we want to get back. Hopefully, we can get back to. We don't know post January 6th. We don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully we can get back to being on the Hill. But in the meantime, and even in addition to being on the Hill, the Zoom was effective, it felt, and the panels were really, really well organized and so informative. I have pages and pages of notes, which I still need to share with both of these guys, and we're going to get into more detail. We're going to cover all of these things on the show over and over again. So very well done, Mariam, and to all of you at the Assembly.
The one thing I will add, being on the Hill, you definitely get your steps in.
You do.
Yes.
Looking at my phone, you've got 40,000 steps after one day of walking around from building to building. I mean, you get your steps in for sure. So I do miss that, but I make up for it in running, so it's okay.
That's great. Mariam, thank you so much for joining us this morning in Armenia, and for covering everything we've talked about, from advocacy to the conference to thoughts on the situation in Armenia. We're going to keep in touch, and we have the link on our link tree. Rich, you've been so great at always sharing that and telling everybody about it. All the links are there, plus the Armenian Assembly has it really nicely organized on their Take Action page, which is available on our link tree as well. So
we'll be following your journey in Armenia, and I hope you make it to Artsakh and Sunni, because those areas are of utmost importance to me. Hopefully
all of us.
All of us, of course. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for putting this on. I'm happy to join again if I go to Artsakh, perhaps to do sort of a follow-up. So I thank you for everything that you do, and stay active and keep doing what you're doing, because it's working. It really is working. So thank you
so much, Mona. Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
We could probably wrap with that, guys, right? That was a good way. Yeah. So,
Take care, Mariam.
yeah. Thank you, Mariam. Take care. Ajo. Yeah. Great, guys.
Alrighty. So thank you all for staying a little bit past the hour. And good conversation. I was really happy that we were able to have Mariam on. Yeah, and see you all next Thursday.
Yeah, for sure. No, we're going back to Wednesdays, are we not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
Believe
Okay,
we are.
so final things. We still need I need at least one person to donate to Armenian Wounded Heroes Fund live today, right now. I'm not gonna draw this out too long, but if you're watching after when we're not live, come on, consider
Yeah,
it.
we do it. We get donations after too. So thanks for bringing that up, Rich. Hopefully we get something now. If not, definitely donate while it's up. So
Yeah, and remember, moving forward, we're going back to Wednesdays. So pay attention to your emails, pay attention to your Facebook, and also pay attention to we're going to be broadcasting this on YouTube as well.
this recording will be on YouTube tomorrow. It'll be available tomorrow. So yeah.
Fantastic. All right, well.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
All right, good night, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Good night.